Total Wine & More is a wonderland to explore. Thousands of wines and spirits, unexpected pairings, and great gifts. Low prices and helpful guides make the holidays magical at Total Wine & More. Drink responsibly. Be 21.
Hi, this is Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and you are listening to No BS Job Search Advice Radio, episode 1824. Welcome. Friday, busy week for me, and today I'm going to do an Ask Me Anything where I cover the answers to a couple of behavioral interview questions. Hope you find this helpful and give it a great review wherever you listen to the show. And with that, let's get going. I try to cover a lot of things in my videos and podcasts, and there are things I miss from time to time. So if you have a question about job hunting, the easiest way to ask it, and I want to be clear, it's a quick question. Like in this case, it's how to answer particular interview questions. I'm not looking to go into this elaborate, personalized thing. I want to help not just you, but a lot of other people concurrently. So I'm not going to respond to general questions. I want something specific, okay? So here we're going to answer some tough interview questions that could be asked on interviews. And the first one we're going to cover is, tell me about a time where you had to give someone difficult feedback and how you managed it. So I want to start by saying, dealing with difficult feedback on an interview is different than how you might do it in real life. And the way I think of it is, on an interview, you'd start off by saying, I want to make sure that you understand that this person was not caught by surprise. They were informed of this consistently as an issue until the point where at the end of the day, it was necessary to have a more difficult conversation. So you talk about anything that you did to prepare for your talk, which covers these points. And you describe the techniques that you use to deliver the feedback constructively and positively. And you talk with the interviewer about what you did to make sure that they understood the feedback, because if they don't understand, they're not going to change the behavior, right? And then explain any follow-ups that you did to make sure the problem was addressed. So like many of the answers to behavioral interview questions, you follow the acronym of SOAR, Situation, Objective, Action, Result. And thus, in dealing with someone who suddenly was coming in chronically late, you had an employee who you'd spoken with quietly about their new latenesses, and it had gotten to a point where others were noticing the behavior too, and it was adversely affecting some of the other employees. So you brought them into your office and very calmly said, look, I've spoken with you about this problem a couple of times. What's really going on? Tell me what's going on that's causing this issue. And up until recently, your punctuality was never in doubt, but now it is. So is there something going on? And then you talk about how, they had a family issue with a caregiver or a kid who was, finding it difficult to get out in the morning, yada, yada, yada. And thus, you're listening and empathizing, but then coming up with joint solutions to try and deal with this problem. So again, follow up with the acronym of SOAR, Situation, Objective, Result. Now that's a little bit different than the STAR acronym, which is Situation, Task, Action, Result. To me, STAR is for when you're relatively junior, because you're going to deal with task more than anything, versus being in leadership where you're dealing in a more mature setting. So that's question number one. Here's the next one. Did you receive any promotions? Hey, if you've received them, this is your opportunity to brag. I started as a junior individual, and about a year and a half in, I was promoted into one role. And then 2 years after that, I was promoted into a different role. Now, basically what had happened was, the management recognized that I was putting in great work. What I'd done along the way was, and you talk about how you help the firm make or save money, and they wanted to reward me with a promotion and a salary increase, and it was great. So you kind of deal with it that way. Now, if you haven't been with an organization for very long, or it's relatively small and relatively, flat, then you can just simply say, I work in too small an organization for me really to get any promotions. And that's my issue. I'm in a place where, there are 8 of us working in total. I manage the group. My boss is in another city. We talk by video from time to time. This is it. I'm not going to get any more promotions. So I was hired at this level, and this is where I'll die. And I don't want to die. I want to keep thriving. So that's the way you'd answer the question, depending upon circumstances. Describe a contribution that you made to a team project you worked on. Now, this is generally a staff level question rather than a management question. Even though there are places where, from a management perspective, there's a team orientation to it, this is really a staff level question. So again, SOAR, situation, objective, action, result. And we can't make stuff up because they're going to probe further. So unless you've made up all the details in advance, it just doesn't work. So think about a situation in your past where you worked as part of a team. And you can say, I've been in multiple team situations. And in some, I've risen to the top. In some, it was more appropriate for me to follow direction rather than give direction. So, there have been a lot of situations where I've been assigned responsibility for such and such, where I led a team of people. And in other situations, I was part of a team of people and just being one of the folks working on the project. I pick folks because it's not guys, it's not girls, it's one of the people working on the project. So again, follow the acronym of SOAR. What was the most important task you ever had? Now, this one is interesting because you have to be a little theatrical with it. And again, you're going to use the acronym of SOAR. Again, situation, objective, action, result. But I want you to think about it for a while, because if you dive right into it, they're going to think your answer is can't. Most important task I've ever had. I think basically the one that comes to mind first is one where, and you start to talk about a situation where you helped your firm make money on a project or on a task where others had failed before. Being the hero is always a good situation for a question like this. So, let's say you were brought in to a firm that wasn't collecting revenue in a timely manner. How you streamlined operations and improved collections adequately in order to get money in within 40 days rather than the 100 days on average that it was coming in, with most of the time it going even longer than that. So that becomes an example of something that you could speak to. Explain how your work experience is relevant to this position. This is the great question. I love this. And, you can basically say, if you give me a copy of the job description, I'll go item by item with you and walk through it. But from what you've told me, this is how I match up. You spoke about wanting someone with 8 years of experience with such and such. I have 9. You spoke about someone with 4 years of experience, and you kind of go through the job description to the best of your ability. And more importantly, then you convert to the functionality that's been explained to you. You convert and talk about how you've previously done situations either like this one, similar to this one, along the lines of dealing with people of various levels of sophistication and capability, and inspiring them to do great work so that it wasn't a chore, it wasn't an obligation. They wanted to do it. Now, I have no idea of the team that I'm inheriting, but this is my past where I've been able to do this previously, and I hope to be able to do it for you. So, again, go through your background as fits the role. More importantly, go through the functionality that they've outlined to you and how you've done it previously. Match it with your background. That's the way to really approach this. Can you summarize the contribution to you that you would make to our organization? Now, I think of this as a second interview question because you have more information from people at this point. Now, if it's asked on a first interview, I would basically say, I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that I know exactly how I'm going to create an impact. After all, some organizations really don't want to change it all, and they just want to do plug and play and plug someone into a job that was done well before, and the result winds up being that they don't want me to do anything to change anything. But in addition to getting the work done, I'd like to do small things to help people be inspired so that they love their work and they don't start thinking of other alternatives. And I'd like to do lots of little things to improve operations that everyone can buy into. So I'm not sure how I'm going to affect your organization. This has been my history. And what do you think? How do you think I can contribute? So I think there's one more question I want to address here. Bear with me. This is a variation on that question. If you were CEO of this company, what would you change? I have no idea. And that's the correct answer. I have no idea. I'm an outsider looking in. I read stuff in the trade press, that says certain things, or I read things using Google. I have no idea whether this is true or not. So I'm not going to assume that I know what the CEO of this firm should do and how they should change it. All I know is I'm going to look at things and try and improve them within my bailiwick and make the organization hum. And that's really as far as you can take that question. So that's today's show. I hope you found it helpful. And if you did, here are a few more ways to get information and advice from me. First of all, there's my website, which is thebiggamehunter.us. I have more than 8,000 blog posts there that you can watch, listen to, or read that will help you find your next job. In addition, if you're interested in my coaching you, at the site there's a button there that says schedule. Schedule time for a free discovery call, schedule yourself in for coaching, interview preparation coaching, salary negotiation advice, coaching related to hiring more effectively, managing and leading, helping you to be a better executive in your organization, and overall being a better employee of your firm. If you have questions for me, you can ask them at Wizio.com/thebiggamehunter. That's WISIO.com/thebiggamehunter. The price at Wizio is less than 1/3 of what I'm charging on my website. And I'm doing this because I want to benefit my subscribers here and on YouTube, and only you're going to know about it. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/thebiggamehunter. Mention that you watched or listened to my content. I like knowing I'm helping folks. Once we're connected, it's nice to hear from you. I'd love to hear from you from time to time about how I'm helping. You can also watch me on TV. Did you know that? If you have a Fire TV or a Fire Stick, download the JobSearch TV app for Apple TV, Roku, Sony, Samsung, like 90 different TV platforms. You can watch me on either Zingo TV or BingeNetworks.tv. On YouTube, subscribe at JobSearch.TV.com and have access to thousands of videos I've created. I'll be back tomorrow with more, and in the meantime, I hope you have a great day. Be great!
Haverty's Furniture is here to help you get set for the season with up to $1,000 off. So you can set the stage with style and set the bar more beautifully. So why not settle in together on a new sofa? Because being at home doesn't mean having to settle for less. Even though the holidays feel a little different this year, Haverty's Furniture can help you create the perfect holiday setting with up to $1,000 off plus 0% interest.
Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Extra cash? Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2020 Nielsen Report limitations apply.